Only a year and a half after getting their 4th trophy of the decade, the Warriors are fighting to stay 500. Everyone wants to point to the Chris Paul trade, but the real reason is someone else.
Klay need a fresh start with a new organization. Is he a number 1 on the contender team? No. Is he a number 2 on the contender team? No.
Klay Thompson has been the weak link for the Warriors this season. In 29 minutes a game, he's only averaging 15 points per game on 13 shots, on pace for the worst 3-point shooting season of his career. Klay was once an all-NBA player, one of the best two-way guys in the league. Now, he's not. It happens. But the problem is, he's still being paid like a superstar. Klay Thompson is making $43 million this season, the 12th most in the league. And that's more than Luka, Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox, Jason Tatum, and a lot of other guys playing way better basketball than Klay is. His contract is about to be up at the end of this season. Now, he's already signed his obligatory past my prime contract. If the Warriors are going to compete, he's going to be paid way less money. But will his pride let him? Klay's pride won't even let him consider coming off the bench for the betterment of his team. This isn't a knock on Klay. You need a bit of pride if you're gonna make it in the NBA. But once you get to a certain point of your career, being realistic is important too. If Klay Thompson doesn't believe he's at the point in his career where he should take a pay cut, maybe it's time for the Warriors to do the unthinkable, trading Klay. Even just saying that out loud feels blasphemous. This is Klay Thompson. He's the number 2 guy on the franchise that's dominated the league for a decade. Now you're just gonna toss him to the curb? Now it's just business, right? Nothing personal? Former Warriors GM Bob Myers doesn't think so.
A lot of times people will say it's just business, but this is not a just business situation. This guy, there's gonna be a statue of this player outside of Chase Center.
But the thing is, guys with statues get traded too. Kevin Garnett was traded from the Timberwolves to the Celtics when both parties realized that they weren't going any further. Shaquille O'Neal was traded away from Kobe a couple of years after a three-peat because it was time to move on. The difference? KG wanted out and the Shaq-Kobe relationship had soured too much to go on. This situation has happened before with just about every past dynasty. The Celtics of the 1980s were old and broken by 1990. But Boston refused to part ways with any of their core guys, paying them big bucks until they retired. So the most dominant team of the league's first 40 years didn't reach the finals again until 2008. The Jordan-era Bulls swung the other way, getting rid of everybody after 1998. 6 titles, that's enough. Bye now. That didn't work so well for them either. At some point, every team either moves on or keeps their stars for sentimental purposes. In either case, they usually regret it. There's no right decision, but trading Klay might sour some relationships. That's why Bob Myers stepped away from the role, refusing to be the one that pulled the trigger on a Klay Thompson trade, but knowing it was imminent. To really understand how important Klay is to Golden State, you have to go back through his career. Klay was drafted in 2011 to a fairly dysfunctional franchise that had made one playoff appearance in the 21st century. Historically speaking, the Warriors were one of the old-timers elite, but it was dark times in the Bay. When he came into the league, he was seen as a Kyle Korver type, a run-and-gun specialist who hit almost 40% of his threes at Washington State. It turns out, the Warriors were underestimating him. Klay emerged instantly as one of the best shooters in the league, walking into the NBA as a 40% three-point shooter. He was a lockdown defender who could bounce between Chris Paul and Blake Griffin without giving an inch. But this was 2012. Rarely in the NBA did a team thrive with 2 guards. They needed to get big. Everyone remembers the Monte Ellis trade, where the Bucks had their choice between Ellis and Steph, and they chose poorly. Huge missed disaster for the Warriors there. In 2014, the Warriors avoided another huge disaster when they almost parted ways with Klay for the dominant stretch big, Kevin Love. Everyone was on board. Bob Myers, the owner, the coaching staff. The only holdout? Jerry West, who'd been working as a special advisor to the executive staff, Now, when the Hall of Famer on your staff says no, it's best to listen. Lucky for the Warriors, Myers was smart enough to do just that. That same summer, they hired Steve Kerr as head coach. They had been a middling playoff team the previous couple of years, coached by Mark Jackson. But Myers knew his team had more in them. Jackson was a very traditional point guard in his playing days, and his coaching style was very traditional. He wanted Steph to be a classic point guard, a Steve Nash type, Klay to be a lockdown defender, and he wanted to funnel it all through David Lee. Steve Kerr, on the other hand, was good at one thing in the NBA, shooting the basketball. So he told his guys to do just that. Not long after, the Splash Bros set the world on fire. Obviously, they won a couple of titles. Klay had some massive moments, including Game 6 in the 2016 Western Finals, where he saved his team from an embarrassing loss as favorites. He had the famous 11 dribble game, where he dropped 60 points on, you guessed it, 11 dribbles. In that same game, he set an NBA record with 37 points in a quarter. Klay also set the single-game three-pointer record with a mind-boggling 14. Those are 2K numbers. Klay was the best two-way shooting guard in the NBA, but he had the humility to delegate his role when Kevin Durant came to town. How many guys do that? Settle for being third best behind two top 15 all-time players? Of course, he had that devastating knee injury in the 2019 playoffs. After missing 2020, he had an Achilles tear, setting back his return one more season. Is that where the pride issue began? Klay had made the finals 5 straight years. In the 2 seasons he missed, the Warriors missed both playoffs. When he came back for 2022, they won another title. Obviously, that's gotta feel pretty good for your ego. But the reality is the opposite. He knew he wasn't the same when he came back, and he did not like being called out for it. Chuck was incredibly gentle, considering the source, when describing Klay's return to form in the last few years. Chuck said that he's a really good player, but nothing like before the injury. Klay took offense to that.
You know, it hurts when someone like Charles Barkley, with the platform he has, says you're not the same player prior to the injuries you have. It's like, no duh, man. Consecutive years, tore my ACL, my Achilles in consecutive years, and still help a team win a championship. I mean, it hurt hearing that, because it's like, man, I put in so much freaking effort to get back to this point. Like, it's hard to even put into words.
Then the overcompensating began. Sure, you have 4 rings, but are you half the player Devin Booker is now? It's never a good sign when you need to bring up past success to win an argument. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys. Klay is a negligible defender at this point of his career. Last season, he was able to lead the league in threes, the first time he's ever done that, but his overall shooting numbers have plummeted since the injury, and his scoring has dropped to an all-time low. Klay is past his prime, and he knows it, but worse yet, he hates it. So the bigger question comes, if Klay knows he's not worth $43 million a year, will he accept less to stay on the Warriors? Or will he force the Warriors' hand, trading him away for a rebuild? In terms of trade partners, everyone points to the Bulls and Zach LaVine. LaVine is a scoring machine, but at no point in his career would he be described as a winner. The Warriors have a very specific culture in place, and LaVine is not that. They've had some success in transforming me-first, empty stat scorers into important players on good teams, namely Andrew Wiggins, but they also tried it with D'Angelo Russell, and that did not work. If you need any more evidence as to why they wouldn't trade for a talented guy outside of their culture, look no further than their trade sending Jordan Poole for the way past his prime Chris Paul. Maybe the best trade target would be calling Minnesota back, getting the second piece of those disappointing late 2010s Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns is redundant in Minnesota right now. Rudy Gobert is proving that last year's trade might not have been as bad as once thought, and Anthony Edwards is clearly the number 1 guy. Cat still wants to be the man, the main scoring option. Now he's got the 3-point skills to run with the Warriors. He's got the talent to be the primary offensive option in the first 48 minutes of a game. Steph has the humility to let him do so, but the wherewithal to take over when it's time. For most teams, Klay would be a salary dump. The Warriors would include young talent like Jonathan Kuminga as the carrot, allowing a rebuilding team to develop him. But the Timberwolves need some veteran leadership. They need a few more adults in the room. Mike Conley is severely outnumbered there. The Warriors are probably not going to trade Klay. Sure, this is a business, but at the end of the day, the business is run by humans. With humans come feelings, and the execs in Golden State have a lot of love for Klay. They wouldn't just throw that away, but if they want to extend Steph's trophy case by 1 or 2 more, they might have to. Do you think the Warriors will trade away Klay Thompson? Should they? Would Cat be a good fit in Golden State? Let us know in the comments, then watch the disaster that's been Jordan Poole in Washington next. Listen to The Wrong Opinion, useless NBA trivia, and garbage rankings for more NBA content.